Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
You are so tall to me.
What's up, my brother? I just thought I've never done this before, man. But I'm just checking in, standing up here. I know. I got this new Apple Watch, and it's telling me to stand. So I just do what I'm told.
I got a new Android watch. It's telling me to take a vacation.
Well, I think you should listen to it. So, what's up, my brother?
Hey,
it's
man.
Great being in the coffee shop, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, yeah, behind the scenes, I mean, we do a few of these at a take and then distribute them over a month. We roll them out. But so we've had a few episodes this morning. Really good stuff. The past couple sessions have been so strong. Had a couple of great guests on. A couple of great just bantering back and forth sessions with you on Honesty. It was a really good one to go back and listen to. Dr. John's guest spots were great. Part 1, Part 2. Had a great author on some fiction. Had a great author on some nonfiction. Just a lot of good stuff happening around the coffee shop.
What I love in sobriety is that I can be who I am today.
Right.
I remember, when I was drinking and stuff, I was a chameleon. I would be who I thought you wanted me to be in that point of time, and that's just absolutely exhausting. And I just am. So if I want to stand, I want to stand.
Yeah, I'm still chameleon. I mean, I still try and blend into a room, but. Again, based on our episode,
well, I'm not saying be a bowling ball, right? I'm not saying go in and knock all the pins down, but I'm telling you, just being yourself is so freeing. I think I was talking to my daughter about that this week, and I'm like, man, it's just amazing. So, all right, hey, what are we doing, man?
Hey, we got a table. We got a guest, man. We got a guest. I know we're kind of dogging them over there. So we got Seamus with us today. Good morning,
Seamus. What's going on? Welcome, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to the coffee shop. So Seamus came to us via Glenn?
Social media. Yeah, I think it's called social media, and we don't have it figured out. But
no.
But we connected with Seamus. Love connecting with listeners and with people in the sober community, and we really value it. And what we have found out at 100% level, and we just did something on honesty. So at the 100% level is, we never leave one of these coffees like we're going to do with Seamus without grabbing value.
I know, right?
Without grabbing value and learning something from it. Hope our listeners do too. So
right. So
hope our listeners in Bangladesh.
So Seamus, you're dialing in for you're dialing into our coffee shop from beautiful downtown.
Beautiful.
Somewhere in the United States.
The McTier compound here in Central Texas. So
nice.
I'm just near Canyon Lake, outside of New Braunfels.
Excellent, beautiful country. Yeah. So there's a couple things that struck me when you reached out. So tell me first, if we could. You do some writing, right?
I don't. I started about 4 months ago to write online. I didn't really have a social media presence for sobriety prior to that, so I just started to do it. I joined this online community that kind of was teaching about social media, and I thought it would be helpful for my career and business. And then I said, you know what? I think something was tugging inside of me that said, you really kind of need to share your story. And I was talking with one of my buddies that I got sober with, and he said, I think you do. I think you need to share your story. And at first I thought, well, I need to go do some speaker meetings or something like that. And I'm not really a great public speaker and had never really done that. So I thought, well, social media is really up and coming
let your fingers do the talking.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I could maybe reach some people that I probably wouldn't otherwise reach. And really, to be perfectly honest, I didn't really do it primarily for that. I did it for myself. I thought writing, I don't know how about you guys, but for me, writing has always been very helpful in helping me to clear my thoughts and put thoughts together and kind of make the committee shut up a little bit in the back of my head. So
they are noisy. So are you writing just inspirational posts? Are you writing blogs? Are you writing what are you writing? How does that play out?
I kind of did a sprinkling. I started to do mostly blog posts and then I put it on Twitter, which is now X.
Yes.
And I found that just writing actually more traditional blog posts was not really getting much reach from an analytics standpoint. And I mean, it was very good for me. And so I did a lot of that in the first few months. But now I primarily just kind of, as I'm kind of doing my morning, routine of meditating and just contemplating and, giving thanks for my life, I kind of think, what is something that I could share today? Is there some lesson that I learned? And I really try to look at it from my perspective. Like, I don't try to say, hey, you guys should do this you should do this. I say, where did I screw up? Because I've been doing this for a while and I've made a lot of mistakes. And so I try and think of an example of that, and then I try and write out something short that does that. So.
And you've been sober a few days?
Yeah, it's been a few days since August 21st, 1988.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I
wish I was sober since August 1st.
I know, right?
Well,
how my life would be different.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I was 6 years married at the time and just producing kids. Today. And grateful we're sober today. I mean, that's
great. So Seamus, if I could, right? So I think a key point is hitting my soul here that we can flush through and just kind of talk through. So you are coming to us. So Seamus is not your real name. It's an alias.
Seamus is my alias.
Okay. And why do you have an alias?
Well, primarily I did it just from an anonymity standpoint, but from the standpoint of let me share a little story. So when I started in AA, I was very active, but I was not one of the people that was always talking in meetings, doing speaker meetings, leading meetings. I always kind of like to sit kind of in the back, and I would share, and I didn't talk to a lot of people off the meeting, but I wasn't that outgoing person that, was out there doing it. So, and part of it was because I just felt like if I did that, I would have a tendency, my ego get big and, blow up, and that wouldn't be good for me. I didn't want it to be that consuming. So when I started doing the online thing, I tried to separate my actual life from my online life, so I didn't get this big ego like, oh, look at me, I've got this big social media account. And to be honest, I really don't. It's not that big of an account. I only have a few hundred people. I don't even really keep track of people that come and go on it. So I try and just look at it from the analytics standpoint, like, are people actually looking at it, or are they not looking at it? And if they're looking at it, then okay, that direction is a good message. Let's go that direction. If they're not, then okay, well, I better not post really long things because nobody will read them. But it wasn't really. We talked a little before we started. It wasn't really that I was ashamed of my sobriety. It really had more to do with I got sober so young when I was still in college. So I finished college, interviewed for jobs, started a career. I was already sober 5 years. So to me, talking about that I'm sober with these people I just started working with was kind of irrelevant because they don't know me when I drank. They didn't know me during that time. So it really didn't seem like it was going to be a positive impact on me. And I tried to look at it and say, what positive is going to come out of it? If I came across somebody at work or a colleague that I thought needed help or was talking about it, then yeah, sure, I would take them aside and talk about it.
Well, I'm looking at the other side too, because with social media these days, I mean, I had an experience this week. I was a guest on a podcast of somebody, and we were talking about sobriety. And
Joe Rogan?
No, yeah, right. Yeah, there's a guy who's got some numbers. We're right behind him.
Yeah,
anyway,
catching up.
Yeah, we're catching up. Anyway, I was saying something, and I never did this, but it spewed out of my mouth. I named a company that I had founded before, right? So, I mean, to connect the dots then, and I'm like, as soon as I said it, I'm like, I've never said that before. It'd be like, I don't know.
Google? Did you find Google?
I didn't find Google, no. But you know, I don't know what people do in the rooms of AA. I really don't care. Occasionally, somebody will say, "Well, I'm in construction," and okay, good. So I checked that off. That guy's in construction. I would say 8 out of 10 guys and gals I know in the program, I have no idea what they do. Exactly. Nor do I care. Nor do they know what I do. Nor do they care. It's about sobriety, right? But the reason I bring it up is because, you know, I don't know how he's going to present his podcast, if it's going to be Mike R. or my full last name. Are people going to listen to that and go back and do it?
Is it a sober podcast or is it somewhere else?
It's a sober podcast.
Business, okay.
So you know, now is it going to come? I guess my whole point is it going to come back to hurt me? Where, you know, in today there's a stigma.
That's exactly.
There's a stigma.
That's
right.
what my soul is speaking to right now. Is we want to hit on that. So Seamus, you know, I'll tell you. All my life, and I've done a lot of business stuff, and I'm still kind of in it. All my life, when I would give people my name, and that was true. Everything else, my life was an alias.
Interesting.
My life was, I mean, it was just, I mean, I didn't know who I was. I was a chameleon. I changed. If I'm sitting here with you guys, I would be the person that I thought you guys would want me to be in the moment. And then I'd leave here, and then I'd go to another meeting, and then I would change.
The only constant was your name.
Absolutely right. Everything else was an alias. I didn't even know who I was, right? Now, quick question. Well, no, I have it written down. I'll come back to that. I'm trying to process this in my mind so it flows. In sobriety, I was ashamed of my sobriety. That's probably the best way to put it. I didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want anybody to know. And, you know, I have social media with tons of followers, and they're anonymous. They're alias, right? I don't have anything on social media that says Glenn, whatever, Glenn H, and focus on sobriety. I have a Instagram and Facebook with my full name, and
you never talk sobriety.
Maybe under 1% I talk about sobriety. I cheer somebody else's.
Right.
I never come out with something on my own, right?
Right.
Because I know how the world, when you use the word alcoholic in the world, I remember this, you know, 8 years ago, I went to a men's Saturday breakfast, and I was leading this table, and this guy says, alcoholics are the most evil people in the world.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the guy that's leading the table and has changed his life and is changing his life is one of the most loving, serving, you know, that's what the perception was back then, you know, and I'm like, that's the perception that the world has. So, of course, I'm keeping it quiet. You're
hiding behind the veil.
I'm keeping it quiet, right?
And I think that's one of the reasons why, that probably leads into one of the reasons why I do it, is that I don't want to introduce myself in a business situation or in a social situation that's outside of AA or recovery as, hi, I'm Seamus, I'm the alcoholic.
Right.
I introduce myself as, hey, I'm Seamus, and then they get to know me, and then later on, if it comes up, I don't hide it. And then now they know who I am. Now they've experienced me. They know what type of person I am. They know what I am like in business.
And then what it does, Seamus, is now they've gotten to know you.
Exactly.
And they're like, Seamus is a stud. And now you tell them the story, and now they're like, wow, right? Sober people, powerful, quality, loving, caring, delivering, performing people. Right? So the first time that I tested out my alcoholic story was not in the business world. It was in the church environment. And I know the church environment, trust me, I have seen and I have felt a stiff arm. You know, oh, you're an alcoholic, you're a sinner, stiff arm. I mean, that's the religious crap I grew up with. So I tested, I felt secure in my sobriety. I was testing the waters. I felt secure in the church and the spiritual path I was on. And I remember going to coffee with my pastor. It's like going to the principal's office, you know. So I'm at coffee with my pastor, and I tell him my story, probably to the 10,000-foot level. And I was waiting for that stiff arm, and I didn't get it. He leaned in, and Seamus, I can remember like it was yesterday. He leaned in. He goes, "You know what, man?" He goes, "I love you." He goes, "I know you got 20 AA phone numbers in your phone." He goes, "I want you to put my phone number in there. If you ever need anything, please call me. My phone is open for you at all times." And you know what? The guy meant it, because I have used that phone number in the last 5 years or so. And I mean, we have such a tight, close relationship. And what it did, it gave me the confidence that, hey, man, somebody embraced my story.
Right. Yep.
Now, my second story, and I have three, so I apologize. So, Seamus, my second story is I connected 5 years or so ago in business. This is, well, I'm sorry, I have 4 stories, 5. I have 10 stories.
We're going to reduce it to 3.
Yeah, so I would go to functions and I'd play all the games. I'd get near beer turned into a glass. Nobody knew what I was drinking, right? Blah, blah. And then I'd always land up relapsing. I'd get the cranberry juice with a lime, make it look with an ice, blah, blah, blah. Always land up relapsing, right? So I remember going out with a client, CEO. We were in Manhattan. We were at this bar, and I probably had a year of sobriety. And he's drinking rosé wine on ice in a glass. And I'm sitting next to him. I had sparkling water. He keeps pushing me. "Come on, man, have a drink with me. Have a drink with me. Have a drink with me." And it was that moment in time that it just clicked for me, where I cared more about my sobriety than what he thought of me. And I said, "Look, man," I said, "I don't drink. There's a reason why I don't drink. So I'm going to enjoy my water." And then I had to do it. I said, "And if you call that drinking," and I pointed to this rosé glass of wine on ice, and I'm like, you know, I will never join you.
That's
right?
a sad excuse.
But it was that point in time I realized I cared more about my sobriety, what anybody thought about me. So I started living in that. So I had a business situation where a guy, we were doing some stuff and talking. He said, "Hey, Glenn, I just want to connect over coffee. He goes, "Something's going on with you. Something's different about you. I'd like to hear your story." And it wasn't a key guy. It was just a relationship. And so for a half hour, I gave him a 30,000-foot view. And at the end of that, he goes, "That clicks for me." He goes, "Now I know why you're different." And he goes, "I loved the opportunity to build a relationship, build a friendship with you, and just get to know you."
Yeah.
Long story short, he landed up being
big deal.
A first investor in a big project that I'm working on, because he believed in me and my principles and how I live and blah, blah. Yeah. And then the last story I'll tell you is, so I am opening up more with people that I do business with today. All of my business partners know my story. 70,000-foot level. I just did a deal, an investor, $15 million, and I'm in my heart, I'm like, I'm not signing this deal until they know. And so I shared my story. I said, "Hey, look, guys, we're doing great together. I just want to share." And for a couple minutes, I shared my journey, what I went through. I said, "Hey, I'm 8 years sober. I'm in AA. I worked the 12 steps of AA. I'm part of a sober living project, right?" I said, "I sponsor guys. I'm on a sober podcast. I'm really focused on sobriety so that I'll never take a drink again." I took a risk, but I knew it wasn't a risk, because I've had enough faith and facts in this program where I sat there and it worked. Both of them said, "Wow, thank you for sharing that. We are all great."
Right.
And I'm telling you, maybe not everybody's going to think of that. And I don't put it up on a billboard.
Right.
But, man, when I sit down there, I've probably told 20 people in business in the last month. And I'm just, and every single situation, Seamus, is really,
it's been a positive.
Turned out a positive.
Yeah, mine's been the same. And I'll tell you, I'll share one quick story. So, early in my sobriety, I was very concerned with what people thought. Like, is he drinking? Why isn't he drinking? And then I saw a quote years later, and it said, you become a lot less concerned with what people think about you when you realize how seldom they do. It was by a guy named David Foster Wallace.
Oh my God.
It's very true.
Yeah.
And
hey, Seamus, can you say that again?
So you become way less concerned with what people think about you when you realize how seldom they do.
Excellent.
If you look it up online, David Foster Wallace, I probably didn't get it completely right, but that's the
good enough, man.
Gist of it.
Yeah, that's so
that's
true.
A great nugget.
But yeah, I agree with you. With I wanted people to get to know me for me. And then if the sobriety thing came up or recovery thing came up, then I would share it, because then that's not the primary first, interaction that they had with me. Because like you said, there's such a stigma attached to addiction in general that if you go up to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm Seamus, I'm an alcoholic."
Yeah, right.
They'll be like,
oh, good.
What's wrong with this guy? I'm not going to go near him, and
unless it's in the rooms of AA.
Yeah.
Then you're welcome.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
so Seamus, I love that. Doesn't that speak to ego, though? Doesn't that speak to ego that we think we are the shit, right? And everybody's thinking about me, and people are really caring about me, and it's all about me, when people don't really care.
No.
My doctor, I have a doctor for 20 plus years, and I shared with him when I very first got sober, and because I had heart issues from drinking, and I was sharing with him like a couple of years ago, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna go out and have a couple beers with your family this 4th of July?" I'm like, and I wanted to say something, and I thought,
read the chart.
He doesn't remember.
Yeah, right.
Read the chart.
Right.
And it's like and we're friends. I mean,
right.
We're friends. So that goes perfectly with that quote. He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. Yeah, no, he doesn't really care.
Doesn't care. Yeah.
Yeah, this is good stuff. What would you tell the sober curious somebody? Because I love the fact that you got sober when you were, college age. Today, do you think it's more challenging to become sober at a young age today, or do you think it's easier with the resources and all the online stuff that? What's your take? Do you think it's harder or easier to become sober as a young person in today's environment?
Well, I think there's, like Glenn was talking about the stigma. I think there's less stigma now than there was in the 80s. The 80s, it was still really bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's in that realm, it's easier. With social media, I think it can make it harder, because it's just social media tends to amplify the worst sides, the two extremes in everything. And so on social media, they're like Glenn was talking about the near beers and stuff like that. And I'm pretty, when I first got sober, I think O'Doul's and Sharps came out.
O'Doul's and Sharps, yeah, right.
That was the only two. And
now there's 100.
Yeah.
And none of the bars had them.
No, right.
So even if I wanted to do that, which I wouldn't, because of the reason Glenn described, it's pretending.
Yeah, right.
And I had a long conversation online with some people about this, and they were like, "Oh no, it's okay, mocktails." And I said, do heroin addicts go to like a crack house and
just get
like some fake heroin?
Fake heroin, yeah, right.
Or snort some fake crack or smoke? Why would you do that? And why would you pretend?
Sure.
So I just think it comes down to honesty. You need to be honest with yourself. Why are you doing that? You're doing it because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because you feel uncomfortable in that situation. Well, then you need to realize, why are you uncomfortable? If you're that uncomfortable, leave the situation.
Gosh, Seamus, I love that.
I love that too. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, that's powerful. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, right.
Are you uncomfortable? Are there other tools you can do to make yourself less uncomfortable than pretend?
Right. Good
but
stuff.
I used to drink tonic water with a lime.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because I liked it.
Yeah, right. I do too.
It kind of looked like a fake drink, but if anybody asked me, "What do you drink?" I'm saying drinking tonic water. And if they ask me why I didn't drink, I say because I have a heart problem, which was true.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It was true. So
I'd have to say I got a head problem.
I had that too. I didn't go that deep. But,
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right.
I did actually have several times over years people pull me aside and say, why don't you drink?
Yeah.
It seemed like you're such a fun guy. And if they were people that were like really heavy drinkers, then I would start sharing with them, and I actually had two, I think God puts you, or your higher power, or flying spaghetti monster, whatever you want to call it, puts you in places where you can be helpful. And I had two bosses that I worked for. Both of them, one of them was a bad addict and the other one was a bad binge alcoholic. He would binge and then he'd quit for 6 months to go to church and then back and forth. And both of them ended up getting sober, not directly because of me, but I did have conversations with several.
You were part of the story.
Yeah,
right.
part of the story, and they knew that I didn't drink, and later on, after I stopped working for them, then they both knew why. Yeah. But I'd worked for both of them for 5 years each, and but it's a great story. And one of them, the bad one, he became very active in like prison ministry for AA, which is that's tough.
Frontline work. That's frontline work.
That is tough. Yeah,
Seamus, how do people find you online?
I'm Seamus McTier on Twitter or X.
And can you spell McTier?
McTier.
Perfect.
And that'll be in our resource room. And you got other presence besides Twitter?
That's the main one that I.
That's awesome,
it has a link to my longer blog posts in there. So
well, let us know once you compile all your blog posts into a book, and then we'll put a link to the book up in the.
Beautiful. And Seamus, I am at Stay Sober Today on Twitter. So let's connect. That's my anonymous, but that's who I am. But man, I love having you on to unpack. Love to have you back to unpack some more topics. But such a key. People out there, they're almost like two identities, right? It's like my fake identity out there, and then it's my sober identity. And I'm afraid to show people out there who I really am. And what I've learned when I talk to people like, hey, why aren't you having a drink? And I'm just like, I just don't drink, right? And then when they push, I said, hey, there's a reason why I don't drink. And I have found 100% of the people just leave it at that.
Yeah, and you know what my takeaway from today is? They probably don't care anyway. It's just conversation. What do they care? What do they care?
Here's why they care. Because they want to drink.
Right?
Yeah. The only ones that care are the really pester you about or that have a problem. Exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
Seamus, you rock.
Seamus,
thanks,
it's
man.
been great, man. Come back again.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to.
Excellent, Seamus. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, man.
Okay,
Thanks,
guys.
Glenn.
See you, brother.
Have a great one.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.